Well, basically, just to start real quick from the beginning, Liang wrote this wonderful script, and he came to me and asked me if I would maybe come on board to help him produce it. And after I read it, I was sold. I told him I'm on board. I would love to help you get this film made. And then we started talking about, well, who would we want to possibly direct this film? The first person Wes mentioned was a promising young up-and-coming director. He immediately thought Nadine would be right to direct our film. He said that we should interview her first, and he came to me and told me after the interview that that he didn't feel like we need to see anyone else. He was pretty much sold on her from the beginning.
I had this project sort of was with me for a number of years, and over the course of, I brought Eddie on probably about a year and a half after I've been developing it, and over the course of that year and a half before Eddie came on board, I interviewed a number of directors, you know, most of them men, a lot of them were sort of more seasoned, if you will, and when Eddie came on board, there was sort of this surge of new energy that I really enjoyed, and we started sort of rethinking things, and you know, like you said, I think it's clear from Nadine's work in short films that, you know, she's got a great eye, and that's what I was attracted to, and we have a lot of mutual friends, and so when we met, it was just you know, a good connection, and Eddie sort of agreed, and we sort of, you know, jumped at it. It's basically about
Friendship.
friendship.
I would think so.
It's about friendship.
Friends that,
It's about
and yourself within the friendship, right?
Within the friendship, and also the friends of friends,
And maybe redefining your friendship, right?
Redefining.
Yeah.
I think everybody goes through life wondering who your real friends are, and I think, you know, as you get older, there are the people that you remember the most fondly about are people that have been in your lives where where you kind of think about them from time to time and you miss them, and I think, and sometimes you miss who you are when you're with these people. Friendships and finding
deals with
your
friendship,
friends,
deals
yeah.
with I mean, it's a true story, like Eddie said, for a lot of people that we know, especially people who sort of moved into different parts of the country from where they grew up, and you sort of lose touch with the old friends, and not only do you lose touch with the old friends, but you sort of lose touch with who you were growing up, and your values, and things like that. And I think it's a story about these characters who somewhat get lost in the real world in terms of career, in terms of relationships with their you know, family and loved ones, and then it becomes kind of a lot of white noise. And so this movie is about this one night where these people sort of come together and try to, you know, figure out where they are. I think it can be a very kind of interesting and new approach to storytelling, in that it's a bunch of Asian American kids who grew up in LA, and they have, you know, they're not hanging out talking about, you know, the ghosts of their grandfather and things like that, you know. But I also think that I hope people can watch it and think it's a normal story
About friendship.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I connect with these people.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. The main three characters are basically three guy friends that went to high school together, and then they lost touch as they got older, and then because it doesn't have to do with an experience being Asian American, it just happens to be three guys that were good friends in high school, and years later when they finally, you know, reconnect, they meet some very interesting people in the span of one night, and then all this stuff happens, which you start to not only discover about your friend that you knew way back then, but also you're discovering yourself and how you've changed since way
Right.
back then, which I think anybody can relate to.
Totally.
You know,
Right. And in fact, I think that's probably the most interesting element of the title change, is that, you know, when Brian and I were on the phone, you know, I said, what I like about the possibility of this title is that it's not just about the person who you used to know, it's also the person who you see in the mirror,
Yeah.
who you used to know. And I think that's what happens in the course of that one night, is that you rediscover who that person is, and it's sort of filtered through your old friendships. You know, we are part of a bigger cast, ensemble cast.
Very
There's
much.
7 sort of, you know, major characters in the story, and they all sort of serve an interesting part of the interesting function of the story in terms of storytelling.
So who are your actors and actresses in the 7 main
Well,
characters?
you know, obviously Eddie Mui, Brian Yang, Kara Crane, Emily C. Chang, Rex Lee from Entourage and Suburgatory, Sarah Sanderson, and me.